David DeGuzman inside the NBC4 Digital Center, joined as always by Whitney Harding and Joe Nugent. It is Thanksgiving week. Is there like a big game this weekend or something? Is there something happening? I don't know.
It's your first time.
It is. We're going to talk about that in a bit. I do want to, because I keep forgetting over the last couple of weeks that basketball season has started. So I do want to just like briefly shout out Bruce Thornton. He reached 1,000 career points, 25 points against Green Bay, and Ohio State off to a 5-1 start on the hardwood. So eventually at some point we'll talk some basketball, but yeah, all eyes on football. Yes, there is obviously a huge game this weekend. Ohio State, Michigan, my first one. There's something special about a lot of rivalries, but this one is obviously top tier when it comes to rivalries. I'm not going to get too much into the X's and O's, guys, because I feel like this week is a lot of, at least for us, watching, it's a very much emotion driven. Speaking to the Buckeyes this week, hearing from Ryan Day and the players after the Indiana win, and then of course during the weekly media opportunity, what do you think is the mindset going into what's obviously the biggest game of the year?
I think it's about the work, and it's a cliche, but controlling the controllables, not focusing on the past. We asked Ryan this week about managing the emotions this week, and he didn't really make it sound like it was an issue. That, we're focused on the things that we think will make a difference in the football game on Saturday.
Yeah, I mean, most of these guys that will be starting at least have played in this game. Some of the ones that haven't are transfers, and they've played in their own versions of this game. I mean, David said it is different. This is different. But, I mean, Caleb Downs has played in the Iron Bowl. Will Howard made the comment that, yes, Kansas State plays Kansas, and they don't lose to Kansas, but, I mean, they've played in rivalry games. And so I think that they're locked in and they know what that means. A lot of the questions I asked the guys was about the toughness, because it's not just beating Michigan as the priority, but it's how. And that's something in the losses over the last few years. It hasn't just been the losses, but that they've been losing just by getting manhandled. And I think that they've really taken that personally.
Yeah, I think the recent history has shown that when you do this over and over again, it hurts even more and more and more. And I was struck by reading that Ryan Day had mentioned it's one of the worst things that's happened to him, losing to Michigan, and you can tell why this game is so important. So like I said, my first time, and what's funny is like when Will Howard said like, yeah, if I face Kansas, it's almost like one of those things where it's like, oh, that's cute. Kansas State, yeah. Kansas. Aw. That's like when I said, like, yeah, I mean, I don't know. I used to cover UVA, Virginia Tech. I'm like, oh, that's adorable. For you guys who have been through this, tell me, when was the first time, either when you were covering it or, Joe, I know you're from here. When was the first time you realized that this rivalry is one of the best in all of sports?
Third grade. So I moved from Columbus, believe it or not, up to the Detroit area in third grade, and I was definitely the only Ohio State supporter at my school, and I lived it every single day. And that was at a time when Michigan had the upper hand in the rivalry. Yeah. So I was defending the Scarlet and Gray on a regular basis, and actually developed a relationship with one of the teachers in the school who was a Michigan State fan. She's like, hey, at least we have this in common. We both don't like
Michigan.
Yeah.
I mean, I knew the importance of sports-wise of this rivalry, even growing up as a kid, because I've always loved college football. Oh. I grew up in a place where it was Texas or A&M, and I'd be like, oh, neither. No, I just didn't like either. So I've been around a few good rivalries. I came here from Louisville. We had Louisville, Kentucky, not so much the football rivalry, but basketball, it's vicious. But this is different, and I think that my first year covering this, oh my goodness, it was COVID. So they didn't play. They didn't even play. So I had to wait a whole year. Yeah. And then you learn, for me, it's the quirks. It's the little special things. The crossing, I call them the M ferries, the crossing out of the M's all over the city. I was in Grandview, and I was this week, and I was driving by an Ohio State medical building. All the M's were crossed out in Grandview. I mean, it's those little things that are so special.
And I think because there are moments in this rivalry where it goes really bad for one team and really good for another team. Yeah. And when you talk to the guys after these specific games and these situations, we ask them questions about those things, and they have a hard time describing it. They just sort of use like these cliche words, and they have a hard time actually coming up with the proper vocabulary to describe it because it just means so much and it's really hard to put it into words.
Yeah, I mean, it's 120 years of 120 meetings that you're trying to kind of sum up in a couple short sentences. You really can't. I would say, like, for me personally, just growing up, the closest I've been to a rivalry like this is kind of going through, growing up in New York with the Yankees-Red Sox rivalry, which, to me is really up there. I'm excited for my first time getting the taste of what this week is going to be like. It's also going to be the first time for a lot of really, really important players on this team, like Caleb Downs, like Will Howard. And like, I have this like weird, like kind of theory that like, it's almost kind of a good thing that it is their first time. Cause it's like, they can't get into their own emotions, if you know what I mean. It's like, they're not going to let the emotions like dictate how they feel. Whereas I feel like for players like Mech, like, he's pretty much, on it, had his heads on his shoulders, but I feel like it's also easy to kind of get back into those emotions and, feel all that pain and almost let it dictate you. So,
I actually liked one thing that Emeka said today, though, that goes along with what you're saying. He said that they're more focused on playing for each other and not against the other team. And I think that that's true. That's a really good perspective to have because even the guys that haven't played in this rivalry, they can understand that. Like Will Howard talked about, he wants to win this for Ryan. I mean, everybody today said they wanted to win this for Ryan. I think that that's an easy thing to latch onto. Of course, when you get out there and it's going to be going bananas, you'll latch onto that. But I like that and what Emeka said about that. He said, no, we are focused on playing for each other and not against the other team.
And I wonder from a psychology standpoint, from a mental standpoint, if the past is a negative, if it does weigh on this team, if it does play a role in this game, I think they're guarding against that, which I think means that is possibly a concern, because it's really a unique situation where Ohio State's favored by 20 points.
Right.
They're clearly the better team. I mean, think about it.
I would argue, though, most of the games that they've lost in the last few years, they've been on paper
the better team.
Last year was maybe the exception.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah.
But yeah.
21 and 22 for sure.
For sure.
And historically speaking, this is going to be the first time in 74 years that, well, we'll see what happens. It's been 74 years since an unranked Michigan team came to Columbus and beat a ranked Ohio State team.
Right.
So, that's what they're trying to do. So it's like Ohio State clearly, in the better position to play this game. But because of the significance of this rivalry and everything that goes into it, and the way that Michigan is won, to your point, related to toughness, it does feel like, it's...
There's something brewing.
It's not...
Yeah, it's not for sure.
Yeah, it just doesn't feel like it's going to be... It doesn't feel like the Purdue game.
Yeah, and I
right?
Gosh.
I mean,
that would be so sad.
You're right.
But on paper, it should.
But it should.
Yeah.
I completely get what you're saying. It's like they need to play to win and to win mightily, not play not to lose.
Right.
And there is that factor of just like, oh my gosh, we cannot lose this again instead of we have to win this.
Yeah.
Play to win.
Yeah, you've got to make sure that is on the front foot, as Wilfried Nancy would say. From football to football. But no, it's true. They need to be aggressive. And yeah, because like I was asking the players, I mean, it's not, let's face it, it's not just about winning this game. Yeah. It's how you win this game.
And you said it best, because it's not about the X's and O's and the talent and you look on paper how they match up. I mean, if it wasn't Michigan, we would be kind of approaching this conversation like it was like a Purdue or like a Northwestern, but because it's Michigan, that's why we're having this conversation. And I think it's going to be interesting. This is a very unique test because it is a test of your mentality and your emotions and how you can keep that in check, or how you can use that productively in a game. Yeah. So I guess the last thing I want to talk about before we wrap things up here is, a win over Michigan does what in the grand scheme of, reforming the narrative, rewriting the script that we have seen the last 3 years? What does it do to the program as it tries to pivot from what's been a very disappointing 3 years?
Relief.
Yeah. Yeah. I think the setup here is actually really good for Ohio State. If they beat Michigan for the first time, in the last 4 years with that 3-game losing streak. There's going to be, listen, the same way Ohio State beat Penn State, there was a lot of confidence that came from that game, and that win helped Ohio State.
Right, I get what you're saying exactly. This, because let's face it, odds are they're going to play Oregon again if they win this game. So yes, if they beat Michigan and they get that confidence, and there's the confidence of, oh, you know what, we can go beat anybody.
There's nothing left. I mean, I shouldn't say there's nothing left, but in a sense, mentally, it'll feel that way because they've finally gotten over the problem from the last 3 years.
Exactly.
Right? So then they will be freed up, in a sense, to go play Oregon. Not that that was an issue or anything like that. I mean...
But it's different. It's a different feeling. It really is. I mean, mentally, there's always that, mentally you know one thing, but you can feel something else, or the logical part of your brain and the emotional part of your brain, they don't always link up. And this would definitely link those things up, for sure.
It's that monkey that's on your back that, you know, you're just trying to get that off, and, you know, you kind of get to it. And it's almost like if Michigan scores first, and this is a team that's been prone to slow starts these last few weeks, it's like, here we go again. But then it's going to be like the biggest like in the crowd that you'll hear, because it's like, oh gosh, you know. But yeah, I mean,
that's what Michigan wants.
That's what they want.
And, so I think that's going to be a key. I mean, one last point, Joe, because you were at Michigan earlier this week. What's their mindset going into this game?
They seem confident that they'll be able to execute their plan. You know, clearly from a personnel standpoint, they're going to be at a disadvantage in this game. But yeah, I mean, I felt like Michigan, to me, felt very similar this year compared to last year. Where there is a confidence. They're not necessarily going to tell you why they're confident. I mean, which makes sense. Yeah. But you know, I got a feeling from them that that they think they're going to play well. I always felt like this entire year, watching them struggle, that they were going to play their best game of the year against Ohio State, and I feel stronger about that after going up to Ann Arbor and talking and listening to them on Monday. So yeah, I mean, I expect Michigan to play a good game, and there's a chance that they do score the first touchdown, right?
It's very possible.
And listen, they're probably locked in on special teams. They're like, listen, Ohio State, the punt block team, they have benefited in a big way the last 3 weeks. Like, all we need to do is get the ball off and cover it, right? So, I mean, think about how close the Indiana game would have been without Ohio State's special teams. Like, I think Michigan sees that, and they're like, listen, we need to play clean. That is such a big thing for us on the road in this game.
I think the Indiana game is what's been so good for Ohio State going into this game, because they won that game the way they need to win this game. And they wore Indiana down in the fourth quarter, and they just kept plowing away. And the run game wasn't the best, but they got plays when they needed them in most of those situations, and that's what they're going to need against this Michigan team. And if Michigan scores first, maybe I'm too close, or maybe because of what we do for a living, I won't get like emotionally like worried about that, because Ohio State all season long has made the adjustments. I mean, even against Oregon, which they lost, they made good adjustments at times in that game. That's just a really good team. Yeah. I mean, it's a really good
Beware
team.
The Buckeyes in the third quarter of any game.
So I really feel like they will make the right adjustments. It's just, can they keep their emotions together if they get behind?
I think we'll have to see what happens.
Yeah, it's almost here.
I know, it's crazy. I mean, it's one of those things where you talk about this all year long.
Oh, yeah.
And now it's finally here, and I'm excited to see what unfolds.
I think with an older team, when it becomes a challenge emotionally, they're going to be in a really good spot to handle it.
I agree.
Yeah. I agree with that too. So we'll definitely see what happens. Hey, we've been talking about it all week long. Of course, we will have the post-game coverage, as always, Big Ohio football recap show. Until then, enjoy the game, everyone. For Whitney Harding, Joe Nugent, I'm David DeGuzman, signing off.